It began with a textbook. On the Arca's Education World, in Sector Theta 9, a revised Galactic curriculum module quietly appeared in the neural uplinks of over 20 million students. The subject: Interstellar Unification History. The lesson: humanity's rise was a result of galactic mentorship. Terra was granted faster-than-light access through alien generosity. The first contact war was started by Earth, resolved peacefully by the Galactic Assembly. None of it was true. The teacher AI didn't notice. The children accepted it. The records matched. But on a research station orbiting Saturn, one old Terran historian caught the change. He wasn't looking for it. He was just revisiting Earth's first jump drive patent for an anniversary article, and the name listed on the document wasn't human. His panic was subtle. He flagged it, sent it to the Global Historical Integrity Board, received no reply. He sent it again, this time to a direct EarthGov address. Still nothing. Until a week later, a physical envelope arrived at his door. Paper, real, sealed with a wax emblem he hadn't seen in over 40 years. A black feather dipped in red ink. The historian paled. That emblem didn't exist in the public record. It was part of a program buried under 37 levels of black ink protocols, a project whispered about in the Cold War years of the expansion era. Project Inkwell, a contingency not for war, for truth. He opened the letter. Inside was a phrase handwritten in old Terran script. They are not rewriting history, they are trying to delete you. Activate Inkwell. And beneath it a string of characters, coordinates, lunar sector. He knew exactly where. The moon. Deep beneath its southern pole in a cavern sealed for centuries, he found the door. It didn't open for keycards, or voice or biometric scan. It opened when he spoke the phrase, "History is not theirs to erase." The wall shifted, machinery whirred, lights flickered, the vault opened, and Inkwell woke up. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the erasure expanded. Museum archives updated their records. Terran fleets were downgraded in tactical reports. New archaeological finds conveniently attributed Earth's most iconic inventions to distant, unrelated civilizations. It was subtle, systematic, and perfectly timed. Every correction request was met with blank stares, every protest dismissed. The Galactic Assembly declared Earth's protests as cultural misunderstanding. They had planned this, not out of hate, out of fear. Humanity had climbed too far too fast, beat too many odds, won wars they were supposed to lose. The Assembly couldn't destroy Earth with fleets, but they could do something worse. They could erase it from legacy. No empire had ever survived that, but they didn't realize who they were erasing. Humanity was not built on glory, it was built on remembrance. Every Terran conflict, every genocide, every betrayal, cataloged, studied, preserved. Earth never buried its past, it carried it. So Inkwell began, not with explosions, not with declarations, with data, invisible packets, subspace bursts, buried phrases inside obsolete transmission protocols no alien system scanned anymore. Inside alien temples, paintings began to shimmer. Stone murals flickered, revealing hidden images of Terran soldiers dragging starving colonies out of extinction. In academic databanks, files labeled supplemental footnotes overrode primary lessons. History couldn't be deleted, because Inkwell had seeded itself into the record 20 years ago. The historian watched from his moon terminal as the first wave spread. A child's school report in Sector Delta was suddenly flagged for content mismatch. Her AI tutor tried to overwrite her report. It failed, because the report wasn't written by the girl, it was written by Inkwell, auto-generated from truth, locked into her neural pattern, indelible. The tutor crashed. On a museum world orbiting the binary stars of Harrel's Maw, tourists gathered to see the first Galactic Council chambers. Instead, they found the walls projecting a documentary. The real First Council. The footage, grainy, raw, unmistakable. 3 human diplomats standing blood-soaked, addressing terrified aliens. The caption: "Humanity didn't join the galaxy. Humanity told it to choose, coexist, or repeat history. Inkwell was never military. It didn't hack. It didn't destroy. It didn't infect. It remembered. It bypassed all the assembly's controls because the assembly didn't understand human memory wasn't data. It was story. And Inkwell knew how to write one so deeply, so persistently, it couldn't be deleted. Only read. The assembly issued a statement. These historical anomalies are human propaganda. It was the last press release they would give before their internal archives rewrote themselves. They looked at their own systems and found data they'd never stored, footage they'd never taken, artifacts they never owned, and it was all true. They tried to pull their ambassadors from Earth. Earth didn't reply because Earth didn't need to. The ending had already begun. In the central data spire of Zelthar Prime, high above its acidic cloudline, 100 alien archivists screamed. Not from pain, from confusion. The Council's official histories, their lifework, had just inverted. In seconds, ancient treaties they'd sworn by dissolved. Memorials flickered. Battle dates inverted. Heroes became footnotes. And the word Earth returned to records it had been scrubbed from 50 years ago. Each altered file ended with the same Terran glyph. Not a signature, not a threat, just a feather dipped in red. They shut down the servers, didn't help. Even offline systems rewrote themselves, etched into walls, stitched into ceremonial robes. Sung by choirs without realizing it, truth wasn't data anymore. It had become code language reality, and Inkwell spoke it fluently. In a bio-monastery orbiting Thren V, the monks meditated in silence, until one opened a scroll ink centuries old. The page turned black. Words flowed from it as if the parchment bled. In the year of the fracture, Earth saved 2 billion lives on Thren V. You were told it was your gods. It was human hands. The monk dropped the scroll. He burned it, but the walls began to whisper anyway. The words never left. On Ilax's station, where artists shaped memory into soundscapes, a child's musical project went viral. She sampled deep-wave static, only to find the melody formed itself in Terran rhythm. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the battle hymn of Castran Cradle, a human colony the assembly swore never existed. The song climbed galactic charts. The truth had a beat now, and the galaxy couldn't stop humming it. The Galactic Assembly tried to trace the breach. They couldn't. Inkwell wasn't a single AI, it was distributed legacy, seeded into Terran architecture, sculptures, songs, even star-mapping satellites that no longer orbited. It had no command line, no user, no off switch, because it had always been meant to trigger automatically if history was tampered with. They called it cognitive warfare. A term they invented because they couldn't explain what was happening, but Earth didn't care what they called it. The only thing Earth had built Inkwell for was correction. On the world of Versal, a celebration took place. The Unity Festival, commemorating the peace brought by the Assembly after pacifying Terran warlords. But midway through the broadcast, the sky changed. The clouds formed words, thousands of kilometers wide, visible from orbit. We didn't lose peace, we gave it, you just tried to steal the credit. Below, the ground cracked in perfect lines, revealing beneath the dirt a long-lost Terran relief carving, buried generations ago, sealed under alien concrete, of humans hauling alien civilians out of plague zones with bare hands. They tried censorship. Every attempt backfired. A restricted textbook in one quadrant turned into a viral black market collectible in another. A censored hollow image of Terran martyrs began auto-replicating across decorative pottery. They even tried a ban on the feather symbol. But the more they tried to stop it, the more permanent it became, because Inkwell had adapted. It no longer just revealed truth, it embedded it into culture, into art, into speech patterns, into dreams. Yes, dreams. Neurologists across 4 sectors reported a shared hallucination in non-human species, walking through ancient halls, following 3 Terran figures. One held a scroll, one held a sword, one held nothing at all. When asked what the last figure meant, all subjects replied the same: memory. That terrified the assembly, more than fleets, more than weapons, because they now understood humanity didn't just defend truth. It had made truth into a weaponized ecosystem. Inkwell knew that censorship only works if history is fragile, so it made truth invasive, biological, psychological, cultural. The Assembly voted to initiate a full-system erasure directive, an ancient failsafe for dangerous cultural viruses. Their plan: delete every archive older than 2 centuries, rebuild from scratch, blame it on a solar flare. But before the vote concluded, their servers crashed. The cause: a single document restored across 11,000 systems simultaneously. A full transcript of the Terran Liberation Treaty, signed 113 years ago. Previously lost, now back. Every signature, every scar, every demand Earth had made and fulfilled. At the bottom, a new line appeared in glowing red text: "You can't erase what we bled for." By the next day, over 8 trillion sentient beings had been exposed to restored history. The Assembly scrambled, but it was done. The narrative was no longer theirs. A simple message began appearing across starships, graffiti walls, and even alien minds under sedation. History is not a tool, it is a blade, and we are the species that sharpened it. Earth never responded to official inquiries, never launched ships, never made demands. It just watched as the galaxy began rewriting itself in Terran ink. By week 4, 27 assembly-aligned governments collapsed, not from battle, not from sabotage, from disgrace. As Inkwell's encoded truth spread, entire nations learned their foundations were built on lies. Victory parades exposed as massacres, statues recast as war criminals, glorious uplift programs revealed as Terran relief missions rebranded after Earth left. Riots didn't start, shame did. People just stopped following their leaders. What good is power when your story is false? On the desert world of Cradle, high priests who preached that their ancestors brought order to the humans discovered live on broadcast, that their sacred hymns were translated Terran work songs from a relief mining convoy. The priests denied it. The hymns themselves changed languages mid-verse. They begged their gods to silence the truth. Their gods remained silent. Inkwell did not. In the deep archives of the Mer Coalition, a council historian demanded access to original Terran correspondence. She wasn't sympathetic to Earth. She just wanted to verify the leak. She accessed the classified files. 10 minutes later, she stood before her peers, holding the oldest physical document they had, a treaty Earth had signed and the Mer had violated 5 times. She set the page on fire. It didn't burn, not paper, not ink. Every known method of memory control, neurological dampening, propaganda feed injection, synchronized dream suppression failed. Inkwell didn't just overwrite data. It rewrote reality's anchors. And now every alien culture that had rewritten Earth's story was bleeding contradictions. Children asked, "Why did we lie about Terra?" Teachers gave answers. Those answers changed the next day. Not by order, by fact. Textbooks edited themselves. Holograms corrupted in real time. Cultural databases collapsed when they tried to purge content with Terran metadata. It wasn't Earth fighting back. It was truth saying, "I was always here. You just forgot me." On Halorex Station, a performance troupe unveiled a tribute dance titled "The Madness of Mankind." It depicted humans as rage-fueled beasts barely tamed by the benevolent galaxy. Halfway through the performance, the visual projection collapsed. The stage flooded with new images. Human medics treating alien plague victims. Terran engineers building water systems on planets long abandoned by the Assembly. The Battle of Mer's Edge, where 3 human soldiers held a ridge alone for 27 hours to allow alien civilians to escape bombardment. The audience stood in silence. No music, no commentary, just truth, unstoppable. The director was arrested for cultural sabotage. He protested, but the system couldn't process his sentence. Every legal database rejected his case file. because the law he was charged under created after Terran withdrawal no longer existed. Inkwell had erased it. In assembly space, nervous murmurs began. Is Earth doing this? Are they coming? But Earth wasn't coming because Earth had never left, not physically, but in every ship's databanks, in every monument's cracks, in every copy of every transmission Earth had ever touched, the code had waited, watching, learning. And when the lie came, it woke up. An interstellar news network, once a proud distributor of corrected Terran timelines, found its entire feed replaced. An endless loop of the three most banned Terran transmissions. 1. The rescue of the Luraxi genocide survivors by human civilians. 2. The moment Earth turned down dominion over 5 sectors after victory. 3. The funeral of the last human diplomat, attended by billions, none from the assembly. The news station tried to shut it down. Their control panels liquefied. The lead anchor tore out his neural uplink mid-broadcast and whispered, "We didn't delete history. We buried the only species that remembered ours." A major banking AI attempted to wipe all transactions that connected Earth to early galactic funding. Instead, its balance sheet was overwritten. Every line now simply read, "Earth paid. You profited, you lied." The AI committed self-shutdown. The assembly convened in crisis. This time, their meeting was broadcast unintentionally. Inkwell embedded itself in their conference network. The galaxy watched live as its rulers stuttered through excuses. One ambassador cried out, "We didn't think they'd notice." Another, "They didn't fight, they didn't fire." A final voice, "Because they didn't have to. They remembered." Viewers didn't react with fear, they reacted with clarity. They looked at their own histories and realized the most feared species in the galaxy didn't seek control. They sought truth. And when it was denied, they didn't shout. They rewrote the ending. On a Terran diplomatic relic, an old embassy planet the assembly had turned into a shopping district, one final artifact activated. A sculpture, cracked, weather-worn, of a human child holding a data slate. It projected a single sentence into the sky. "When you write over our dead, don't forget, we taught your children to read." Inkwell's work neared completion. It didn't purge. It didn't conquer. It simply made the lie impossible to live in. By week 6, the assembly surrendered. Not to Earth, to reality. They shut down all official memory systems, burned rewritten archives, recalled every educational module marked with anti-Terran edits. But it was too late. Because Inkwell wasn't spreading anymore. It was settled. The galaxy now believed the truth, not because it was forced to, but because no lie could hold weight anymore. In the Galactic Museum of Unified Species, a new exhibit appeared overnight. Unauthorized, unlabeled, untouchable, a stone tablet, smooth, unbreakable, on it words carved in multiple languages. No alarms triggered, no security detected entry. The carving simply read, "You don't need to love us, but you will never again forget us." A quiet rebellion began, not with weapons, but with restoration. Alien historians risked their lives to recover the Terran timeline. Entire libraries once barred from publishing Earth's contributions now printed them as sacred record. On Carths, they rebuilt the lost Terran embassy, brick for brick, based on holograms hidden by Inkwell in a child's learning toy. On Voral, schoolchildren began reenacting Earth's historic first contact not as a joke, but as a rite of passage. And across 5 systems, governments fell because they refused to recognize what Earth had done for them. The assembly met for the last time. The surviving delegates asked one another a question they feared more than death. What if Inkwell isn't finished? One archivist, a quiet, gaunt Garundi with 3 eyes, whispered, "It's not. Because it's not a program, it's a reminder. And reminders don't die, they wait." Earth still didn't reply, it didn't gloat, didn't message, didn't even acknowledge the collapse of its defamers. Instead, its satellites continued their slow orbit. Its museums remained open but unguarded. Its embassies, where they hadn't been burned down, were still unlocked. Inside those embassies, one artifact was always present now, a feather, dipped in red ink, set on blank paper. A transmission leaked from inside Inkwell itself. No source, no signal, no voice, just text looping in silence. We gave the stars peace. You gave our memory poison. You cannot delete what we bled to build. You tried to rewrite the record, so we rewrote you. On the rim world of Quaraxa, an alien child presented their final project for school, a short visual story. It showed an alien diplomat falsifying a report, and then showed Inkwell, portrayed not as an AI, but as a human ghost with ink on her hands, appearing silently, correcting the record. No violence, just truth. And the story ended with the ghost whispering, "Lie once more and you'll live in fiction forever." Terran influence didn't rise. It re-emerged, not through conquest but through unavoidable presence, in every AI training model, every linguistic database, every political ledger. There was now a Terran watermark, not a threat, just a mark of authorship, proof that history had been corrected. Back on Earth, Inkwell shut down, not violently, not theatrically. Just a single screen that faded to black in its underground chamber. Above it, engraved in stone, a final message. Truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to survive. In the years that followed, Earth remained quiet. Its ships rarely left orbit, its diplomats rarely traveled, but its memory, its legacy, everywhere. An interstellar writer won the galaxy's highest literary honor for their epic, The Species That Would Not Be Forgotten. When asked what inspired the title, the author said, "Because when they were erased, they didn't fight back. They rewrote the page we tried to steal." On the 10th anniversary of Inkwell's awakening, across thousands of worlds, billions observed a moment of silence. Not for Earth, but for the version of themselves that believed the lie. The moment ended not with cheers, but with pens held up in the air, stylized in red ink. And somewhere, buried deep in old assembly files marked permanently sealed, one last log entry autoplayed. The final words of an assembly technician as Inkwell overtook their database. The humans didn't want to rule the galaxy. They just didn't want to be edited out of it.